Guys, it's Fairy Fawn here and I'm ready to try another recipe. Today my recipe is gonna be croissant. This is another kind of difficult recipe because it's so involved and it has so many steps. So I'm gonna start first with adding the flour, the yeast, the brown sugar, and the lukewarm milk. Let's get going. Milk, that's 1.5 cups. I have here my active dry yeast. I have all-purpose flour, a tablespoon of salt, and some light brown sugar. And that's for the first part of the recipe, the part that kind of gets the dough started. Milk, which was 1.5 cups. And I'm adding it right to my mixer bowl. Your brown sugar, that's 1/4 cup. Packed light brown sugar. And now I need 3 1/4 teaspoon of the active dry yeast. 1, 2, 3 1/4. There we go. I'm just going to give it a light whisk to get it mixed up. And then I got to let this sit for about 5 to 10 minutes for the yeast to activate, so it should look nice and foamy. Quick stir. It's been about 7 minutes since I added everything in the mixing bowl, and as you can see, the yeast has foamed up quite nicely. So now it's time to add the flour and the salt and get it mixed in. 3 1/4 cup of flour, so that's 1, 2, 3, 1/4. And then I have my tablespoon of salt here. Add it right on in. Let me give that another quick whisk just to get it all mixed together. Then I'm going to put it on the machine with the bread dough hook. Get her ripping. 5 minutes low speed. Let me set my timer. And have it mixing for about 5 minutes. And make sure that the dough is nice and gathered together and that it's well mixed. So the 5 minutes is up, so I'm just going to check the dough. It says that it should be nice, elastic, a little bit sticky, so let's check. It's a little bit sticky. I'll let it fall off the hook some before I mess with it. I'm gonna get my surface lightly floured while I'm waiting for that to happen. You always want to work with a lightly floured surface when you're doing bread, unless the recipe says otherwise. Put some on my hands. When I grab the dough, I'm one of those people that don't like stuff on their hands that much. It's funny because I like to be in the kitchen, but oh my gosh. Still is a little sticky, so I'm going to add some flour, a little bit more flour, because that's really sticky. Well, not so much, maybe. Still going to add a little flour. Take what's on the hook also, because I'm trying to get every little bit for as many croissants as possible. I love eating them, I should say. It's the first time I've ever made them. All right, so also I'm gonna knead the dough for about 5 minutes. It's probably been about 4 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back into the bowl. You gotta cover it with some saran wrap and put it in the fridge. I'm gonna grab my plastic. All right, ready to go into the fridge for 1 hour. So I'll see you in an hour.
1 hour later.
It should end up as an 8x5 rectangle. So I'll give it a little bit more. I'm gonna grab my silicone mat real quick to do a quick measurement. All right, so I'm almost there at the 8x5 measurement. I'm actually just gonna leave it like this, just make sure it's rolled out because my butter is actually busted out from the plastic wrap a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and unwrap it. Before I unwrap the butter, I'm actually gonna put it back in the fridge until I'm dealing with the dough. So I gotta turn the dough out onto a lightly floured surface and roll it out to a 16 by 10 rectangle. And then I'm gonna end up placing the butter into it and folding it in. You gotta keep it in like a rectangle shape, so I just keep flipping it, kind of get it going to where I want it to. So 16 is probably gonna be about right there. Should fold it under. And 10. So this is a little bit more wide this way. You got the butter out of the fridge, and you're going to place the butter in the center of the dough. Like that. And it says to fold the dough onto the butter envelope style. fold it into thirds. So this, okay, and then I'm gonna fold it this way. All right, now it says that I'm gonna have to roll the dough back out to the 16 by 10 again. Gotta get this sucker back into the fridge. And this is going back into the fridge for another hour. So I'm on my fourth and final fold. So what I've done for the past 4 hours is I've taken the dough out. I put it on my silicone mat, which I've actually been keeping in the freezer along with my rolling pin, because the first time that I took it out to roll to help make the layers, it started sticking to the mat pretty bad. So I was putting putting the mat and the rolling pin in the freezer. So I've also floured the surface because at the last folding turn, as you can see here, a lot of the dough got stuck to the mat. So I added flour this time. So we'll see how this last turn goes, because it was actually starting to rip my dough and I was getting unhappy about that because I spent so much time making it nice and pretty. So here I am unwrapping it for the final rollout and fold. And then this is gonna sit in the fridge overnight, and tomorrow afternoon after I get home from work, I'll come home, roll it out one last time, cut it into strips and stuff, and start making croissants. All right, so start the rolling process. Yeah, adding the flour is definitely what you need to do every time you take it out of the fridge and roll it. I'm happen to be using this mat, like I said, because it's so warm. Even though I turned down the air conditioning, the house just didn't cool down fast enough, so I put my equipment in the freezer. And this is looking so much better already because I was getting so upset my dough was getting torn on this mat, and it looked like it was kind of ruining some of the layers. So I know it's still going to be tasty. And you can see all the butter, all these dots are the butter. And when they go in to bake, all these pieces of butter are going to separate the layers of dough, and that's what creates that look when you cut into a croissant. Has all those little fine layers. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but that's where they come from. Hours and hours of sitting in the fridge, pulling it back out, rolling it, folding it back up. That was 4 hours. 4 hours. This is the 4th hour, the last turn that I'm doing right now. And it's looking nice again. So I'm just rolling it out so I can fold it back up, put it back in the fridge for tomorrow. I'm gonna add a little bit more flour, just because some of it's starting to stick a little bit. Just want to get a nice roll on this one, so when I take it out tomorrow, I'll have a nice pretty presentation to show you. I take it out and roll it one final time. It's my wind chime that I actually got from my best friend's mom for when I graduated college. I decided to hang it in the house so that it wouldn't get ruined. And I love it there because I'm always reminded of her. She's since passed. Wonderful person. Shout out to Annie. See there, some of the dough's getting stuck to the mat, but I did add flour to the mat initially, so with all this rolling and folding. This is an intricate recipe. I can't wait to eat them. I think I'm gonna savor every single bite from all the work that I had to do. Yeah, this is much better. So make sure you flour your surface every time that you take it out. Excuse me, to roll it. Flour that surface, flour your pin. You can see some of the stuff left on my pin from the first couple of times where I just forgot or just wasn't even thinking about it. I was like, why is it sticking? All right, so I'm just gonna wrap this right back up. Put it back in the fridge overnight. Take it out tomorrow, roll it out one more time, cut the dough into strips, roll them up like a croissant, stick them in the oven, ready to eat. It's been about 24 hours since I finished the last turn. That was last night. I've since taken the dough out of the fridge so I can roll it out its final time. This time I put a little bit more flour on the surface of the silicone mat, my hands, the bread itself, and the rolling pin. So I'm gonna roll the dough out one final time, and this time I'm going to try to make it about the length and width of this mat, just because you want it to be thin for the croissants. I know whenever you buy store-bought croissants, you'll notice that the dough is quite thin because they puff up as they cook. You know, so if I don't make them thin enough, then they're gonna be some real fat croissants. That's never a bad thing, but it's not gonna exactly look like what they're supposed to. And that is rolling out nicely. I'm gonna get a little bit more flour. See it, a little bit tear in there. Just trying to get it to about the size of this mat. Trying to make everything even. If you want, you can pause it. All right, so I just about got it out to about the width and the length that I like it, or want it, or think it should be at. It's pretty thin. I'm just like being nitpicky and trying to make sure everything's even. All right, so what I'm gonna do actually is work with it in like 3 pieces. So I just scored it into thirds. I'm gonna set the other parts over here really quick. So I went ahead and rolled out this piece a little bit more because my daughter said it was looking a little thick, which is, you know, sometimes a good thing for things be looking thick, but not your bread, of course. So I'm gonna try to slice them into triangles because we all know that classic crescent or croissant shape. And actually I get confused with my shapes sometimes when I'm trying to like make them freeform. This is why I don't take over the math classes. First one, start at the wide edge and roll it. And make your little edges bend. I'm gonna turn it around so that top piece is on top. That little finishing part right there. Towards the camera. Classic little croissant. This is number 2. So I'm not quite sure how they're gonna puff because there was an awful lot of yeast in this dough, so I'm making them a little bit smaller than the normal one you might see at like a breakfast place. They're sometimes a little bit bigger. But it's my first time making these, so we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to see the layers because I worked hard on those. This one's my sad little one I picked up and it lost its shape immediately. So you know what? I'm just gonna let it be a bun, because why not? All right, so I'm gonna pop these in the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes, and then I'm supposed to turn down the oven so it's on 400 right now. After 8 to 10 minutes, I'll turn it down to 375 and bake them for another 8 to 10 minutes. So now that I have them on the pan, I'm gonna go ahead and egg wash them, which I actually forgot, and my daughter reminded me, what are those for? Thank goodness she was paying attention, because obviously I was not. So go ahead and egg wash these. This is what gives them their golden brown color and their nice little sheen. So all right, now they're popping into the oven, 8 to 10 minutes, turn down to 375, another 8 to 10 minutes. Okay, so I've taken them out of the oven after baking them at 400 for about, I think I did 6 minutes. My timer went off and I set it for another 8 minutes, so now I've just taken them out. They look great to me. Oh, look at that. That's the little classic one. Put it on its little plate. Oh, homemade croissant. I think they turned out pretty well. I can't wait to taste them. I just want it to cool down a little bit more before I give it a munch, because I don't want to burn my mouth. There was a lot of butter in this recipe, so that oil is still pretty hot. Cool down, and I'm ready to take a bite, see how it turned out. This is my little tester. The bottom's not too bad. A little darker than you're supposed to get it, but you know what? Who cares? Very good. Pat myself on the back. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, please.